All right, any questions so far? So you'll notice that this intersection here is on a 90-second cycle length. And this intersection here is on a 240-second cycle length. So I'm going to just click this. The second button here is optimize split and cycle time. So if I want to create a 90-second cycle here, I can just go 90 for the lower, 90 for the upper, and then I'm guaranteeing myself I'll have a 90-second cycle. So that's one way, if you wanted match cycle lengths, for example, of doing it. So now they're both 90. This button here just optimizes the splits. They were already optimized, so nothing is changing. And it makes sense because I did this intersection fixed time with an exact equal amount of traffic on Stonechurch and the exact same amount of traffic at Upper Paradise. It's giving me, of course, 45 and 45 second split. So it's making it completely even. So that's what I would expect, and which is why I did them all the same volume. And if I go over to Cortland, you'll see that right now it's giving not a lot of time on 2 and 6, but a lot of time for 4 and 8. So again, if I click on this button here, optimize split and cycle time, or optimize split, because I don't want the cycle time to change, I can click optimize split. And for some reason, it didn't change anything. That's strange. Okay, for some reason, that didn't seem to want to work properly. So I clicked on the optimize split and cycle time, left these both at 90, hit OK, and it's optimized the splits. So of course, it's giving more time here to phases 2 and 6, Stonechurch, than it is on Cortland, which would make sense given the traffic volumes we entered are much higher on Stonechurch than they would be on Cortland.
Jeff?
Yep.
I have a question. After I put the first intersection and I chose the direction of each, northbound, southbound, all of it, and the second intersection, I don't have full options. Like if I want to choose northbound to go, I need one option that goes like the default option through right, left. It's disabled here. Why do you think that is?
You can't, so when are you talking about the lane configuration here?
Yes, exactly.
You don't get any of these options?
I get all of them for northbound except the default one, that one that said minus on your screen. Like the main one, the middle one. Yeah, oh, okay. That one I don't have.
You can, so if you want to, you could just select, let's say this one.
Yeah.
And then you can add, well, actually, no, I guess you can't. So you don't have the option to pick this one that has like a combination left, through, and right?
Oh, I have no.
Okay, oh, maybe you just have to click on something and go back to it. I'm not sure exactly.
Oh, I don't know why. I didn't have it Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint for a second. Okay, I think everybody can everybody see the screen? I'm not sure if the screen is still sharing. Is it still good?
Yep, all good.
Perfect. Okay. So we've gone through and we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I think I just showed you guys number 6. Make sure this says time of day pattern coordinated, actuation type, and make sure 2 and 6 are the coordinated phases. So I think we've got all the way up to phase, or all the way up to step number 6 here. And I just showed a little example here of this menu. This is the intersection settings menu. I'm going to go back to that in a second. So step number 7, and I'm not sure why this is with Vistro, but Vistro wants you to create a coordination group before you do any coordination. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. And then you have to actually go back and select that coordination group. So I'm going to go back to my Vistro for a second here. So to set up this coordination group, you go to Signal Control at the very top. And you've got a few different options here. You want to click on Edit Coordination Groups. So I'll open that up. So you see this, you have this coordination group. If you click on this once, you can rename it. So I prefer just to call the coordination group that you're coordinating. So for example, I'm coordinating Stone Church Road. So I'm just going to change it to Stone Church Road. You also have the option of selecting a master controller. So you can't do that step yet, and I'll tell you why in a second. So you can leave that blank, but once you've kind of renamed it, I renamed it Stone Church Road, I just hit OK. And then for anyone who's looking at this intersection settings menu here, the same menu I had on my PowerPoint, there's this option for signal coordination group. So now I can pick Stone Church Road. So you have to actually do this for each intersection. I think it should do it by itself, but I guess it doesn't. So you want to click on your other intersection and then change its signal coordination group to Stone Church Road. All right, anyone have any trouble with that? So at this point, you want to have your basic intersections created. You want to make sure they both have the same cycle length. And you want to, so what you do is you usually want to have your biggest intersection. So I picked the one that was called Stone Church and Upper Paradise. I used that to create a cycle length of 90, and I set my other one as a 90-second cycle to match it. And then you want to select your, what we just did, the coordination group. So I'm going to go back to the coordination group for a second. So now you can actually select which intersection you want to be your master. So this is an optional setting. I'm not going to pick a master, but if I picked my master as this intersection here, which shows it as intersection 1, that's where you'll see the difference here, 1 and 2. I think you can also rename your intersection. Sometimes it's easier to find if you rename it. You can make it the master, which is going to default the offset as 0 and only allow me to change the offset at the other intersection. So I'm not going to do that, but if you want to, that's the options right here for that. Okay, so I'm going to close that.
Okay, what if we selected that specific intersection as the master? What will happen?
It just defaults your offset 0 and doesn't let you change it. So example when you would use that in real life. So let's say that you already have a group of coordinated intersections and you're adding a new intersection. So you add in your new intersection into your model, but you don't want to play with the other offset because it's already set. Let's say you're coordinating both streets and it works well for the north-south traffic and you don't want to change your offset for east-west traffic. So you basically set that as your master and then it won't change for you.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint here. Where'd it go? So we've done everything here on the first page now. We did step number 7, and then we did step number 8, where we actually selected it. So right here under Signal Coordination Group is where you select that. So we've now done steps 1 through 8. So I'll pause for just a moment if anyone has any questions about steps 1 through 8 here. I know we're really rushing through this. I want to give you guys as much time to work on your assignment though as possible, because I always believe in trying to give as much class time as possible for this kind of stuff, so you don't have to spend a lot of time in your spare time. I think a lot of you could probably almost finish assignment number 2 during the 3-hour window for this class. I'm hoping that at least the last hour of this class gives you complete work time. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next page of the PowerPoint where we go to step 9. That was the optimized splits and cycle time. So there's those 3 options I've shown here in the icons. We already did that step, but if you have not already, make sure both intersections have the same cycle length. Alternatively, if one of them had a 100-second cycle length, then maybe the other one could have a 50-second cycle length like we talked about. But generally speaking, I would look to make them the same cycle lengths. So steps 9 and 10, we've basically already done. Step 11 is the part that you probably would not, something that you probably wouldn't know unless we had this exercise here. It's this root button. It also, if you watch the video that I suggested from the PTV website, it explains how to use this root button. So I'm going to go back to my Vistro and have everybody look for this root button. So the root button is on the left side of the page, over here. So just to show you guys, you have all these different settings here. So for example, all these ones down here show different things on the map. So if you wanted to, you could show your queue length, your street name. So if I click on the street, well, they should show up. I don't know where they went. Maybe I have to make my map a little less. Oops, don't want to do that. And one of the
Control A, you can make it like a shear view. So probably that.
So one of your options too here is you can actually show the coordination group. You can also show different things such as level service and delay. One of these has the option to show cycle length. I'm just trying to find that. Here's my volumes now. You can see that I'm actually showing my volumes on my map. So using these ones here, this is just really a side note, you can show a lot of things that will kind of help you out. That's showing the delay and everything. And here you go. This one here shows the cycle length. So you'll see now that there's a 90 showing here. And if I zoom out of my map, I'm showing that both intersections are on a 90. So this here, this view is a handy view. I'm going to just show the entire network here. A handy view to actually show what some of your items are. I don't know why this won't go away. I'm going to put, there, so now I'm not showing any volumes. And now it's gone. But in this example here, I've selected this one here, the intersection info, and then I've actually selected cycle length, so I can actually make sure that they're both on a 90-second cycle, which is what you want. Just another way of helping you to visualize it. So back to the root button. So on top of all these different options here, you have this root button here. So it says create a route for the optimization. So you got to pick a direction that you want to go. So I'm going to pick the root button, and then I'm going to, it makes this little S bend, if you can see my screen. I'm going to select this node, and then if you want to, you can select the next node, it will turn green, or you can just take it right to the end of your network, hit click, and you'll see that your route turns from purple to green. So I'm going to give everybody a minute to do that. If you're having any troubles with that, it could be because you didn't connect the 2 intersections properly, which is why I really was trying to make a note of that at the very beginning. Because when I first did this, I did the same thing myself, and I couldn't create my network properly. So you click on the root button, which again is over here, and you draw a purple line from one end to the other. And once you click, it turns green. So again, I have this purple line here. To get rid of the purple line, you just double click. And then it creates these 2 pins. Is anybody having any problems getting the green line with the 2 pins? Also a good idea to remember which direction you did. So I started out and then at my, I guess, western intersection, and then I went east. So my route here is generally eastbound. Okay, so if everybody has this green line, you'll now be able to click on this button. It says Network Optimization. This button was not available before you drew the route. But now that you drew the route, you can actually click on this button and it actually shows this route I just drew here. So it's called route number 1 and it says it's 682 meters. So I'm going to click on this and it shows my time-space diagram. I'm going to name this route eastbound. Anybody having any troubles doing that?
I'm having some troubles getting the pins to drop. It seems like when I double click it, nothing's happening and it just continues with the purple line.
Okay, double check. That happened to me before, and I accidentally had a link in here somewhere. So what you want to do is if you take this, so you can drag this, just make sure you don't have it where you have 2 links that are not connected properly.
It looks like they're both connected together. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's missing one. I think I'll just try restarting quickly.
Great then.
Yep.
Great then.
Yep.
So I drew my green line, and when the purple pops up, just press enter.
Okay.
I think enter and double clicking does the same thing, but see if that makes a difference.
Yep, that worked. Thanks.
All right, well, that's good. Okay, so if you go to this network optimization section, you'll see that this is the line you just drew, and I renamed mine as eastbound. Because I drew a 2-way street, now you wouldn't necessarily need to do this if you did a 1-way street, but because this road I drew was a 2-way street, you can click on the name here, right click, and create reverse route. So I'm going to click on this button here, and then it says reverse direction of eastbound. And to make this easier to understand, I'm going to rename this just as westbound. And it should be the exact same length. Alternatively, you could draw another route westbound, but it's easier just to do it this way. All right, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint for a second. So we've just done step 11, step 12, and step 13. So now we're almost done. So basically what we do now is we can actually drag our lines in the time-space diagram. So I'm going to go back to the Vistro here. So these red lines, right now they show 90-second cycle and they show your intersections. Another reason why it's important to name your intersections here. So it says Stone Church in Cortland, and this one says Stone Church Upper Paradise, 90-second cycle, 0-second offset. So if you see this, if you go on this red line, you actually get these arrows where you can move these around. So if anyone wants to play around with that, you can actually see how you can adjust your offset. So I've changed my offset to 13.8. So by default, the offsets here are showing in a 1/10 of a second. If you look on this side of the chart, this shows that these 2 intersections are 411 meters away. So I mentioned that in the assignment, I want the intersections to be, I think, between 200 and 800 meters apart. So if 411 meters, let's say that was not the correct measurement, if you move this on the map, let's say I move it over here, it's now showing it as 349 meters. So by moving the intersections, that will change what the spacing is. All right, just so everybody's aware of that. And then you can adjust your offsets here. So if I had in my example here, the coordinated directions are eastbound and westbound. So if you're looking at this time space diagram, this would be Stone Church at Cortland traveling to Stone Church at Upper Paradise. So by moving this offset, so I need to change this one here. I can change a few different things. But what's important here is on the top right. I like watching as bands, so you can change it from this floating off. My preference is imperial bands. And this shows the total signal time here. So if my cycle length is 90 seconds, I really only need to look at 90 seconds. So it's by default, it's showing double. But if I typed in 90 here, now it just shows one group of bands. But because it's a little bit cluttered, you might want to go a little bit further. So you could even try, let's say, something in the middle. You could try, let's say, 135. So I think you get a good view at 135. And you could also, something very handy for roads that are two-way, you can either click on the eastbound and westbound to view their bands separately. But what's easier to do is to just click Show Reverse Direction. So now I've shown the reverse direction. And based on this, I can adjust my bands now. So as you see, if I want to increase this light green band, I am hurting the other direction, which is this darker green band. But if so you can play around with it like this, you can play around like this. So I think in this circumstance, my best bet is probably going to be something like this.
How did you know that this is the best thing?
I'm just visualizing it here. So this is the flow of traffic from one intersection to the other. So I'm trying to make both bands as big as possible. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint for a second. Okay, so we've basically done most of these steps. So I'm going to go back a bit. So in this case, this is not a simple forward progression. Is it simultaneous progression? I know, I'm sorry, I can't show both at the same time, but it's not, because what we didn't do is have the streets timed identically. What it would be is alternate progression, where you're alternating the streets, the greens, to get the best green band possible. So I would call this alternate progression. It's hard to say whether it's single or double or triple because there's only two intersections. You'd have to have more intersections, but this would be classified as alternate progression. So I'm going to go back to my VStro for a second and see how the offset here I have set as 17, and this offset is set at 71. They're offset from each other. Alternatively, I could take this down to 0. Whoops. So as close as I'm going to get. And I can drag this one. And again, this looks about as good as I'm going to get. I can change this again back to 180. And I maybe have a little bit of a better view of it. So what you're seeing here in this time space diagram is this is the green time. And this would be your band between Stone Church at Upper Paradise and Stone Church at Cortland. So I was to uncheck this. This is just the westbound band between Stone Church and Cortland and Stone Church Upper Paradise. If I turn this back on, this is now showing the eastbound and the westbound bands. If I go to eastbound, now just seeing the east, or whoops, if I go to eastbound, why won't that work? Strange. Again, I like to just keep the show reverse direction anyways, because it shows both. But this is basically showing your green bands. So what you want to do, if you want to, in this case, if you want to equally have priority to both eastbound and westbound traffic, you want to make both of these bands basically the same size. And the distance in here is called your bandwidth. So this just from here to here is where the start and end of your vehicle green would get. So in this case, when the vehicle leaves Stone Church at Cortland, it's going to want to, the vehicle is going to, if it let's say, goes near the end of the green time, it's going to get right through Stone Church Upper Paradise. Where at Stone Church Upper Paradise, if it goes through just after the beginning of green, it's going to get through Stone Church at Cortland. So you can kind of see how adjusting that, you can play around with it. And you can try different options here just by clicking and dragging. If I drag it this way, then this is probably about the best I can get that way. This would then be called simultaneous. Although these greens aren't 100%, because we do have more green time at Cortland than we do at Stone Church Upper Paradise, this would be considered a simultaneous progression because basically they're both green at the same time. But in our case, the bandwidth is not as good as it would be with alternating. So in this case, if you looked at doing simultaneous like this, or you looked at changing it to alternating, such as this, I would think alternating ends up with the bigger green band. So here's an example of probably your best case scenario, the alternating green. Does that make sense? So one thing that's important that I did not do at the very beginning, and I did on purpose because I wanted for everyone to see the effect, is we never set the speed limit here. So it's important to set the speed limit because right now, this is just based on the default settings. So if I click on my intersection again and go to, I go to a few different tabs. I could go to the volume tab or the intersection setup tab. It says that my speed limit is 48 kilometers an hour. So let's say that my speed limit was actually 60 kilometers an hour along Upper Paradise. Oh, I just realized that, okay, no, never mind. So technically we're not doing anything to do with northbound, southbound, so you can just leave these alone. So technically you could put in a speed limit of 60 here, 60, 60. Does everybody know where the speed limit is found? It's found under the intersection setup. It may be somewhere else as well, but definitely in the intersection setup. And then you also want to do your other intersection. So if I go to the intersection setup for Cortland, I also want to change the speed limit on Cortland, or sorry, on Stone Church to 60 kilometers per hour. 60, and 60. And then if I go back to this network optimization, which is the picture of the time-space diagram, you'll see my diagram has changed slightly, not by a whole lot. Usually the faster the speed limit, the better your progression gets. Because if vehicles are going faster, they have a better chance of getting through. So you can readjust your diagram a little bit. Maybe we want to try looking at the simultaneous progression. You'll notice now that we've changed the speed limit, the simultaneous progression actually doesn't look that bad anymore. It's looking a lot better than it did. Simultaneous progression will always work better when the speed limit is higher. So if you're doing like a 40K speed limit, it might be very hard for simultaneous progression to work. But if you have a higher speed limit, such as 60 or 70, it will often work even better. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint for a second. We were almost done it. Oh, I don't know why it's on this page. I'm going to zoom through here. So we did set 14, dragging the red lines to adjust your offset to maximize your bandwidth. I showed you how to switch your diagram from flows to arterial bands and then to show the reverse direction. And then we just revised the speed limit to see how that works. And then we've been adjusting the offsets to balance the bandwidths. So again, I just took a quick screenshot and highlighted some of the important things. I would call your routes here eastbound and westbound. You can really call them whatever works for you though. I like to show the reverse direction. That way you can look at both of them at the same time. And I like looking at them in arterial bands opposed to the option for flows. All right, so that is the end of this presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. And I'm going to stop recording. And I am open for any questions you guys might have, or if you want to take a quick break and come back, whatever works for you guys. I am able to answer any questions you might have. What we did today is exactly what assignment 2 is. So if whatever we did today makes sense, then you can probably bang through assignment 2 and be done by 7 o'clock tonight. But I urge you to, of course, take your time, make sure you're putting all of your inputs in correctly, and then go from there.
Can you talk a little bit about the test and how many questions it's going to be and what are we expecting, please? All
right, so I've not created the test yet. It's going to be in my Canvas, I believe. It is going to be a series of multiple choice, true or false, and questions where you have to answer with wording and possibly showing some of your work. I have to play around with the My Canvas tool to try and create the test in there. The test will be not next week. Next week we don't have class because it's our Thanksgiving break. So it'll be the week after that. So it'll be 2 weeks from now. It'll be during the normal class time between 4 and 7 p.m. I know I have a couple students, I don't know if they are online right now, that are in different time zones. So I want them to connect with me because I may have them do the test at a separate time, just so that they don't have to do the test at like 4 in the morning or something, if that's what time it is. So I will, if anyone's listening who's in a different time zone, to please connect with me and we'll try and set up something for that. Otherwise, for everybody else who's in this part of Ontario, the test will be starting at, I'm going to have it start at, I think, 5 o'clock, but I'm going to maybe ask your opinion on that. The reason was I was going to give you some time. It's going to be a 2-hour test. If you want to basically have me go over anything in advance of the test, I'm willing to do that. By 2 weeks' time, I'll know exactly what's on the test. So if you have any specific questions, I might be able to help you address anything you're not sure of before the test, if that helps. So my current plan is to start the test at 5 o'clock. So if you don't want any help and you think you're completely ready for the test, then you can probably start the test at 5. But I'm going to give it basically a window of opportunity, so you can basically probably start it earlier if you want. So I still have to figure out exactly how I'm going to do that. It'll be my first test through this My Canvas software. So hopefully I can get all the kinks worked out before the test starts. And as far as what's on the test, it's going to be everything that we've done so far in modules 1 to 4. Because we have some separate assignments for Vistro, you're not going to have to open up Vistro for the test. So it's basically just going to be based on the PowerPoints that we've gone through modules 1 and 4. And it's going to be, because I really can't control it anyways, it's going to be open book. So you can feel free to go through the Traffic Engineering 5th edition. Some questions will be directly from OTM Book 12. So I'll make note that I posted a table that had, I'll hold it up right here. You guys can see this. We've got one side's got traffic heads. The one has the table for the minimum green times. The back side has the calculations for amber and all red. I may ask questions directly off this table where you really just need to pick up this piece of paper and read it. So I would keep that as a little cheat sheet handy, because I think that will come in handy for some of the questions on the test. Otherwise, we're going to be doing some of the calculations we did to calculate cycle length, calculate amber times if there is a grade in the road. We're going to be using the calculations we did today to calculate cycle length and to make adjustments, or sorry, not cycle length, to calculate offsets and to make adjustments to offsets if there's a queue of vehicles. So all that kind of stuff is going to be on the test in 2 weeks' time.
Will we have some definitions and these things, or?
Very possibly. Like I said, I haven't created the test yet, but yeah, there probably will be maybe where a definition is given, you have to say what the definition is for, what term. Or maybe you'll have to, or I'll say what is an offset, and you have to explain what an offset is in your own words. So I'll talk about assignment 2 for a minute. Hopefully everybody will have a chance, either they have already or they will tonight, a chance to look at assignment 2. It's under My Canvas, under assignments. Basically, just there should be a document you click on within the document that shows the turning movements and the lane geometry. So you basically just create that style of network in Vistro. Make sure your signal spacing is between 2 and 800 meters. And I showed you in the time-space diagram, it shows the signal spacing. You can also, in different menus, it shows the signal spacing as well. All you need to do is move the intersections closer or further away to get the right amount of spacing. I gave a pretty big window in there. And then you follow all the steps we did today to create that intersection. Then you will save the file as assignment 2. And if your name is Jeff, you just call it assignment 2, Jeff Cornwell. Save it, and then you want to upload that into the assignment tool, and then answer this to 2 questions. I'm just going to ask you what style of offsets you picked. Did you pick simultaneous offsets? Did you pick alternating offsets? And just answer what was your recommended cycle length and why. So for this assignment, everybody should really have a different set of values, because I'm not having you start with a template, you're just creating it yourself. So I think everybody should really have a different answer. There is no right or wrong answer for the cycle length. So it's basically, as long as you answer the question, you get at least 1 mark, but I'm going to look at your reasoning as to why you picked that cycle length. So if you're picking a 90-second cycle length, explain why. If you're picking a 300-second cycle length, explain to me why you picked such a high cycle length. Obviously, the higher cycle length you get, the more bandwidth you're going to get likely between intersections, especially if you're running them semi-actuated. So something to think about when doing coordination. You always want, the higher the cycle length, usually the more bandwidth you can get on the main street, but the side street suffers. So one of the objectives of the assignment is to make sure the side street stays at level surface D or better. So that's something I would pay attention to, and that will help you pick your cycle length. Mona, I think you're still here. I see you had a question. What page number is the lecture in the 4th edition? I posted that in the announcement section. I think it's like page 600 and something. It's basically the same sort of thing, just different page numbers. So have a look at the 4th edition if you have it in the 600s. You can kind of go over those different options of the time-space diagrams. I've got a question here from Joshua. How would you coordinate a through in one direction to advance left in the next? I think that was the question you asked me earlier. I tried to explain it, but it's difficult. You basically, the best way to do it is through kind of a trial and error type method, or changing the offset reference point. All right, an answer from Suel. I'm looking now and it isn't the right page number. I have the 4th edition with me. I can find it quickly. I actually have the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th edition. I think I had the 2nd and 3rd edition. I was in this same course.
I think it's 642.
Looks like it starts at page 632. It's called Signal Coordination for Arterials and Networks under Saturated Conditions. And then chapter 27, I think, is Saturated Conditions. It's basically the exact same as the 5th edition, just it's in the back of the book instead of in the middle. So yeah, if you have the 4th edition, that'll work for you too. I'm guessing the 3rd edition probably has similar information as well. Because that's one thing that has not really changed, even with technological advances into traffic engineering. The way you calculate offsets and bandwidth and cycle length doesn't change.
Hey, Jeff, I got 2 questions.
All right.
First question, when I'm drawing one of my intersections, for some reason, I have an exclusive left and a shared through right, but on the other intersection, it has two accepting lanes. And I've went through it all, and I don't know how to get it down to just one accepting lane.
Do you know what I might do? I might try and get you to share your screen if you want. All right, how do I do this? I think I would do.
You disabled screen sharing.
Okay, can you request it now?
So you can see it's got 2 accepting here, yet I don't have like more exits there. I only have like, everything else works.
So this is the,
This is for the assignment.
okay. I'm just trying to see what's wrong here. I guess you just basically, you don't want to have these extra lanes here.
I just want to have one accepting lane going northbound. instead of 2.
Okay, so there's a number of lanes and exit pocket. What does that, let me just try and move this thing over. There we go.
Yeah, I tried that and it just adds a lane in the southbound. So I have that at 0. I get rid of that lane, but it still doesn't take it down to the one that I want.
Well, it's not, I'm not going to mark that wrong, but let's see if we can figure this out. Yeah, why is it showing multiple lanes there? Good question.
Because that would affect the LOS, would it not? Because then the right and the left can turn at the same time, technically.
Yeah, it's not going to make much of a difference, but I'm going to open up mine for a second and see if I can figure out why this is happening. Okay, so I just changed mine to the same sort of setup, and it doesn't show the extra lane, which is weird. But let me see here. So as a hint for the assignment, you see how it says entry pocket length? That'll be where you put your storage lane. So if you want to put in 50 meters there, that will create your 50-meter storage for left turns. Can you scroll your screen a little bit down?
This?
The other one, the map. Okay, click on the end. Click on the very end of it. Yeah, click there. Right click. Remove through lane. That fixed it, didn't it?
Nope, it's still up
So you
here.
gotta do that link as well now.
Oh, that's annoying.
Perfect.
Okay. Second question. I don't understand where it has for the pedestrians here, for the crossings inbound, outbound. How does that go when I'm inputting pedestrians?
I find that part confusing too, to be honest. Synchro just had conflicting pedestrians, and this part drives me nuts. There's like 6 different options. So for assignment number 2, I'm not marking that at all, even though I have some PEDs on the diagram. You don't have to fill it in at all. I'm going to try and figure that out myself and explain it for assignment number 3.
Okay,
So just as a hint for whoever listening right now, assignment 3 is going to be taking your assignment 2 and just making some more advanced changes to it. So if you do a great job on assignment 2, then you won't have to change anything for assignment 3. You just have to add some stuff to your network. But yeah, it is confusing to me. The outbound pedestrians, inbound pedestrians, like to me, I don't know how you would know if they're inbound or outbound pedestrians, and whether if I show that the conflicting number 20, if you would put 10 in each. So I have to do some research on that myself because I saw that and I just thought that seems like a really confusing way to show this. So I don't get hung up on that. You don't have to put in your PED crossing volumes for this assignment.
Okay. All right.
I'm not even going to mark that part because I find that part really confusing.
Yeah, it's not straightforward like Synchro.
No, I know. I've used Synchro for like 10 years. I think I started in version 3 and got up to version 10. And I used Vistro a couple of years ago, and then was told that this course needed to be all modified to use Vistro because Synchro was too expensive. So we're using Vistro.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, hopefully I could answer those questions. But I'm going to get back to everybody on the PED stuff because I find it a bit confusing myself. I'm going to play around with it one day for like an hour and just see by putting in different volumes of PEDs, is it changing my analysis any? I want to see if it really does much. So I don't understand the difference between the inbound and outbound pedestrians myself. So I need to play around with it a bit more.
Jeff,
Yep.
for
Did
the
you fix your Vistro?
yes, just my close it and open it again.
Okay, you know what? I haven't used it enough to answer like the weird questions I've gotten about like why it might do something weird. I can't necessarily answer it. Mine seems to be working stable, so it's hard if someone's having a problem with it, doing something weird for me to figure out what's going on with it. But I'll try my best if you have a problem to try and figure out
Yeah.
at some point what happened. But okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Go on with your question.
Yeah, we will learn from each other or learn from the things that happen during these classes. For the pocket length, is it considering the taper length or just the lane itself?
Just the lane itself.
Oh. Okay, and also the dual entry in Vistro, does that mean that I'm allowing like when I click yes or check it, is it like I'm allowing compatible movements to work at the same time, or what's the meaning of that?
Yeah, exactly. You described it perfectly. Yeah. So if you click dual entry for eastbound and westbound, it means they both move at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So I went over that, I think, last class. So today I really just wanted to get to the coordination settings. So I just had to do some real basic stuff, entering the walk and the flash note walk and the amber and all red. But no, you should go through and make sure your recalls are correct and make sure that things like dual entry are turned on.
Mm.
I really wanted to focus on the coordination settings.
Yeah.
But certainly there's going to be a big term project using Vistro, and then I'm going to have an advanced Vistro session the week after our test. So I'm going to go over a lot of that stuff again and just kind of show the importance and what changing different settings, what kind of difference it makes on the analysis.
So we will start on assignment 2, and before the submission, if I encounter any difficulty or problem or anything, can I like save the file and send it to you by email and ask you my concerns so you can check it and see?
Sure, you guys can always send me email versus 2 ways. There's one, I guess you can use the My Canvas email, which sends me a message, or you can send it right to the standard Mohawk email. So my email, just to remind you, is jeff.cornwell with a 1. So if you don't put the 1 in there, I'm not going to get it. So just, yeah, send me anything. If you have a question or you're having a hard time with something, you can send it to me in advance. The reason I'm using the My Canvas tool is because that's how we were asked to grade things. So that way, every time I grade something, your grade automatically shows up. I had a little bit of issues with it when I first did the first assignment. So assignment 2, you should be able to submit things as an attachment, opposed to having to attach something within the text document, which I think a few people had issues with. They didn't seem to show up properly. So hopefully assignment 2 is a little bit smoother. I'm brand new at trying to use this stuff myself. And it's going to be a big learning curve for me to try and set up the whole test in that program as well. But there isn't really another great option for me to do, opposing to me like sending you at exactly 5 p.m. in 2 weeks, all a PDF document, and having you like print it and then try and scan it and send to me. So that's why I'm using the My Canvas tool, because that's what we're supposed to be using. But I realize that it's kind of new for probably everyone this semester. Is this in the same boat as me, where all your courses are in this My Canvas and you probably haven't used it much before?
Yeah, still I didn't use the email through My Canvas. I don't know even how to do that. So
Yeah.
probably I will send you by the normal email. Yeah, Mohawk.
Yeah, try and send your assignment in the My Canvas. But if you have a question in advance, I think I said so you could actually have 2 attempts at the assignment in My Canvas in case you made a mistake and you want to resubmit it. But if you have a question in advance, you can certainly send me an email and I'll try and look at it as soon as I can. But when you actually submit the assignment, do submit it in through the My Canvas assignment.
My Canvas.
Because that's where I actually have to put in a grade once I'm looking at your work in there and a comment in there for it to actually save properly.
Yeah, sure. So the assignment 2 is like combination of last week class and today's class, right? We have like to do all the, or it seems that you gave us all the timing. So we have just to input it or insert it into Vistro and like set up the control and whether and the phasing, and then play around to get the cycle or the optimum cycle, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if what we did in last class, last week made sense to you, then all you're really doing is those extra few steps, which are creating a signal control. You're clicking that signal control button and you are making a coordination group. Then you're selecting your coordination group, making sure you have identical cycle lengths, and then you are basically just drawing that route and adjusting your offsets. So it's really, once you get the basic information created, it really should take you not much time to go through and do the coordination part of it.
Okay. Hopefully it will go smooth. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just reading the group chat for a second here. So I'm looking at these messages from Mona and Suel. So you guys have a different version of the textbook, an international one? Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't even know there was an international version. Well, good to know. So basically all the page numbers I give you are probably not correct then, if I'm giving you the 5th edition page numbers. Okay, well, I will, yeah, generally you'll be able to kind of figure out in the table of contents what we're covering based on, like today was coordination. So if you looked up coordination in the book, it basically would take you to that section. So I will try and, knowing that everyone's got different versions of this book, maybe I'll try and put the, I'll modify the PowerPoints going forward to actually put what sections, what chapters they are, and then maybe that will help everybody out a little bit more. All right, I'm going to take a 5-minute break myself, but I'm going to come back. If anyone has any questions, I'm just going to mute myself and stop the video. But if you have any questions, feel free to yell out. Just give me a couple minutes here, and then I'll be back. All right.